My Daniel is truly lucky. Not everyone has a girlfriend, curvy enough to catch the attention of the entire room at first glance. Laughter rang around the table, sharper than knives. I sat there, feeling like every inch of my body was being scrutinized. But when I placed my napkin on the table, I swore that remark would become the most expensive act of revenge in the Morgan family history. I remember that night clearly. Dallas was ablaze outside, while inside the Morgan mansion, crystal chandeliers cast their glow over the long table, draped in pristine white linens, red wine glasses swaying like blood. Everyone was dressed to the nines, in form fitting gowns and polished smiles. And I sat there, feeling like a fish out of water, in the navy blue dress I'd spent a month saving up for. I tried to blend in. I smiled politely, sipped my wine, and told myself, it's okay, this will pass. But then William Morgan, Daniel's father, stood up. He raised his glass, his eyes sweeping around the table before settling on me. His smile was polite and courteous, but it was as sharp as a knife. My Daniel really has good taste, he said in a deep voice. Not everyone can choose a girlfriend, with enough presence to make the whole room notice her. The table chuckled. A few whispers were loud enough for me to hear. Does he mean presence or size? Oh my, she really does stand out. And then Evelyn, Daniel's sister, curled her lips and tilted her head to look at me as if I were a piece of jewelry. I admire your confidence, Eleanor. Not everyone would dare to wear a dress this tight and make it a personal statement. The entire table burst into laughter. Their laughter wasn't loud or boisterous, but it was sharp and stinging, like salt rubbed directly into my skin. I sat still, my hands clenching the napkin so tightly that my fingernails dug into the fabric. Daniel whispered beside me, his voice trembling, Don't, don't mind them, Eleanor. I turned to him, looking him straight in the eye. Did you hear what they just said? Are you just going to let them? He remained silent. His face was tense, as if he wanted to say something but couldn't. And that silence hurt me more than the laughter ever could. I swallowed my tears, took a deep breath, and slowly placed the napkin on the table. I smiled, a forced smile that even I found bitter, and said loudly enough for everyone to hear, Thank you, William. At least I don't have to put someone else down to feel better about myself. The room fell silent. I pulled out my chair and stood up. My heels clicked on the marble floor, each sound echoing like my heartbeat. I walked straight out of the banquet hall without looking back. The parking lot in front of the mansion was dark, with only the yellow lights shining down on the road. I quickly got into my car, my heart still pounding. My legs were shaking, but my head was burning. Every laugh from the banquet hall echoed in my ears, as if they were still sitting there, chewing over every sarcastic remark. Eleanor, Daniel's voice rang out behind me. I froze. He ran up to me, panting, his face red. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I didn't know your father and Evelyn were. I turned to look at him. You heard everything, Daniel. You were sitting there, and you didn't say a word. He stammered. I just. I didn't know what to do. I was afraid if I reacted, things would get worse. I laughed bitterly. Worse? Do you think it could get any worse? When they made a fool of me in front of 30 people? Daniel lowered his head, unable to meet my eyes. I shook my head, opened the door of my old Ford, and got in. Sitting down, I took out my phone. My fingers trembled, but my voice was firm as I called Monica, my assistant. Monica, it's me. The voice on the other end sounded surprised. Eleanor, at this hour, is something wrong? I swallowed hard, my voice tightening. Cancel the deal with Morgan Industries. Tonight. Monica was stunned. Wait, what did you say? This is a $1.8 billion deal. We've been preparing for 8 months. The press has already announced it. The shareholders are waiting. I know, I interrupted. But that deal is dead. He just stood up, the middle of the dinner table, and called me a woman with a presence too big for anyone to ignore. The whole room laughed. He made me look like a joke, Monica, and I won't let him buy another inch from me. Monica was silent for a few seconds. Then I heard the clacking of keys on the keyboard. All right, I'll prepare the termination papers. But Eleanor, are you sure? This is a big blow. I smiled faintly, glancing at Daniel still standing outside the car, his eyes filled with worry. I've never been more certain. And trust me, this is just the beginning. I hung up, started the car. The engine roared, drowning out Daniel's disappointed calls. Don't let your father ruin us, Eleanor. Please, just listen to me this once. I looked at him in the rearview mirror, his figure growing smaller in the dim yellow light. My heart ached, but my lips curled into a cold smile. The old Ford, its suspension about to give out, shook violently on the highway. I gripped the steering wheel tightly, not out of fear, but because a fire was burning inside me. The laughter from the party still echoed in my ears, each word present in full force hammering into my brain. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized a truth. If they knew who I really was, they wouldn't dare speak to me like that. I remembered my days in high school in Dallas. On the basketball court, the whole class would chant, "Hippo, hippo," every time I ran out of breath. One day, I cried in the locker room, and my gym teacher just shrugged. Eleanor, if you ran more than you ate, this wouldn't have happened. Those words haunted me for years. Then I went to college and got a part-time job at a small coffee shop. Once, a group of male students walked in and one of them whispered to his friend, but loud enough for me to hear, "Hey, watch out, the tray won't be able to support her belly." They burst out laughing, while I had to bite my lip, pretend not to hear, and continue clearing the tables. Those taunts never went away. They just piled up inside me, like stones thrown into a river. And it was those stones that made me walk straight ahead, never straying from my path. After graduating, I couldn't get a job at any large company. One recruiter looked me up and down and said, "We need someone who looks energetic and fit, so that our customers will trust us. You, probably, aren't suitable." That night, I made a decision. If the door wouldn't open for me, I would build another one. I started in a small garage, rented from a car repair shop. An old computer, rickety furniture, and me, a girl, weighing nearly 100 kilograms with a dream no one believed in. I worked as a waitress while researching technology and buying patents others considered worthless. I sought out engineers who had been laid off and inventors who had been abandoned, telling them I was once looked down upon too. If you believe in me, let's prove them wrong. Gradually, the pieces came together to form Hayes Tech. I still let others be the public face of the company because I understand that when they look at me, they don't see a CEO. They just see a fat woman. So let them underestimate me. The more they look down on me, the easier it is for me to stay one step ahead. And now, what is the irony? The company that William Morgan runs, the Morgan family's legacy, is desperately clinging to my haze tech to survive in the tech era. Everyone thought that the 1.8 billion merger was Morgan saving me. But the truth is, I'm the one holding their lifeline. And he cut it off with a single sarcastic remark. My phone vibrated. Monica's voice was soft but firm. Eleanor, the merger cancellation has been announced. I think the press will explode tomorrow morning. I laughed for the first time that night. Good. And get ready. Contact Fairchild Corporation. If the Morgans think I'm a joke, let's see how long they laugh when their rivals shake hands with me. I hung up and sat silently in the car for a few seconds. In the distance, the Dallas skyline sparkled. From the little girl who used to sit in the corner of the schoolyard listening to everyone laugh at her, to today, when I hold in my hands the leverage that could shake an entire corporation to its core. William Morgan thought I was just too big to ignore. He would soon realize that I was the very thing that would swallow the Morgan empire whole. The next morning, I had just sat down at my desk at Hayes Tech when Monica rushed in. In her hands was a stack of newspapers, still wet with ink. Eleanor, the news is out. Bloomberg, Wall Street Journal, all the major outlets are reporting that the deal with Morgan Industries has fallen through. Their stock is plummeting. I flipped through a few pages, unable to suppress a laugh. The headlines were read. Morgan Industries loses tech lifeline. Haystack pulls out at the last minute. Monica hadn't even caught her breath when her phone rang. She glanced at it, then looked at me. He's here, William Morgan. He's standing in the lobby and wants to see you. He even brought Evelyn with him. I raised an eyebrow. That fast? The stock just dropped 12 hours ago? Do you want security to escort him out? Monica asked, half joking. I took a sip of coffee and replied calmly, no, let him come up. But make him wait. 30 minutes. Monica laughed. In conference room C, with the hard wooden chairs and the air conditioning that's either too hot or too cold? Perfect. I nodded, my lips curving into a smile. Half an hour later, I walked into the conference room. William Morgan stood up. He didn't look like the king of last night's party anymore. His hair was messy, his eyes were dark, and his suit was wrinkled. Evelyn sat cross-armed next to him, her face grim, clearly dragged there to provide psychological pressure. Eleanor, William said, his voice no longer authoritative but trembling. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me. I sat down in the chair opposite him, not shaking his hand or smiling. You have 5 minutes. He swallowed hard. I want to apologize for what I said last night. I had too much to drink. I said something I shouldn't have. I cut him off, my voice cold and sharp. No, you didn't say something you shouldn't have. You just revealed what's really on your mind. That's the problem. The atmosphere was heavy. Evelyn sneered. You think you're so noble? You just got lucky with a few patents and rose to power thanks to the Times. And your body there, no matter what, it's just a joke in this society. I turned to Evelyn and smiled faintly. Thanks for reminding me. But let me make this clear. Your company, your father's company, is currently living off the breath of this joke. William interrupted his daughter, his voice lowering to a near plea. Eleanor, please. Morgan Industries can't lose this deal. Without Hayes Tech, will collapse. I'll make a public apology. Do anything you want. Just sign the agreement. I stood up, walked to the window, and looked down at the bustling city of Dallas below. You know what, William? Last night, you raised your glass and told me I had enough presence to be noticed. You thought it was a joke, but today you're living in that presence, and it's big enough to swallow your company whole. I turned back, looking him straight in the eye. This deal is dead, not because you insulted me, but because you just proved that your company is as empty as your words. And what is empty is not worthy of existence. William's face turned pale, and Evelyn stood up, about to respond. But I raised my hand to stop her. Your 5 minutes are up. The door is over there. I left the meeting room, my heart still racing after my confrontation with William. Monica handed me a stack of documents, but before I could say anything, she lowered her voice. Daniel is waiting in your office. He's been there for almost an hour. I paused. Part of me wanted to avoid him because I was afraid that seeing Daniel would shake my resolve. But then I took a deep breath and pushed open the door. Daniel sat in his swivel chair, his broad shoulders hunched, his eyes red from lack of sleep. He jumped up as soon as he saw me. Eleanor. His voice was hoarse. I turned to leave, but Daniel stepped forward, blocking my way. I heard everything. Monica showed me the video recording from the meeting room. I was silent. He grabbed my hands, his hands trembling. I'm ashamed, Eleanor. Ashamed for sitting there and letting you endure those insults when I should have stood up for you. Ashamed for leaving you alone to face my father, Evelyn, and all of them. Daniel, you don't have to. I began. No, let me speak. He cut me off, his eyes fixed on me with intensity. All my life, I've lived under the Morgan family's protection. I've enjoyed their privileges, but I've never dared to challenge the wrongs they've imposed. Today, when I looked at you, I realized how cowardly I've been. I swallowed hard, my heart racing. You know that if you stand by me, you'll lose everything. Your fortune, your company, your family's support. Are you sure? Daniel laughed, a hoarse and bitter laugh. Have you forgotten? The woman you love just wiped out a $1.8 billion deal because of one insult. If you dare to do that, then I dare to give up my inheritance. He stepped closer and whispered, I don't need Morgan Industries. I only need you. And if you allow me, I want to build something new, not based on the Morgan name, not based on pity, only based on the truth that you and I deserve each other. I was speechless. In his eyes at that moment, I no longer saw the shadow of his father or his family's prejudices. I only saw Daniel, the real, naked Daniel, and his choice was clear. I wrapped my arms around him, feeling my throat lighten for the first time since last night. Your weight has never been a burden, Daniel. Only cowardice is a real burden. And if you're ready, then so am I. He held me tight and whispered in my ear, You are my strength, Eleanor, and will let the whole world know it. Within a few weeks, Dallas was in turmoil. News of Hayes Tech pulling out of the merger with Morgan Industries dominated the headlines. Morgan's stock continued to plummet, investors fled, and the board began whispering behind William's back. One morning, Monica walked into my office and placed the latest report on my desk. Eleanor, Morgan Industries has officially called an emergency meeting. The board members have lost patience. Many want a solution without William. I nodded slightly. They'll be calling me soon. Sure enough, that afternoon, The phone rang. A hoarse voice came from the other end of the line. Ms. Hayes, we would like to invite you back to the negotiating table, but this time without William Morgan. When I hung up, Daniel sat next to me, his eyes wide. You just overthrew my father? I shrugged, half smiling. Not me. He overthrew himself with his own mouth. I just gave him a little push. A few days later, the news broke. William Morgan had been forced by the board of directors to step down as CEO. Evelyn tried to squeeze into the seat of power, but her family's reputation was too tarnished, and no one dared to hand the reins to someone as arrogant as her. Hayes Tech signed a restructuring agreement with Morgan Industries under new leadership, and this time I was no longer the person in the shadows. I sat at the head of the table during the press conference, in front of dozens of cameras, to sign my name on the contract. As the pen touched the paper, I suddenly remembered that night at the party. The laughter, the mocking words, the contemptuous glances scrutinizing my body. I remember the napkin in my hand trembling with anger, and I smiled, not because I had won, but because I had finally proven that humiliation couldn't kill me. It only made me stronger. After the press conference, Daniel took my hand and whispered, I've never been more proud of you. I looked at him, then straight into the cameras. Body shaming isn't just a cruel joke, it's a weapon society uses to exclude those who don't fit the mold. But remember, sometimes that very mockery becomes the fuel for an uprising. And when the marginalized rise up, they don't just seek revenge for themselves, they change the rules of the game. The story ends there. William disappears from the public eye. Evelyn remains silent with no chance of resurfacing. As for me, the one who was once called too much of a presence, I'm now a presence that no one can deny. The lesson is simple. Never mock someone because of their body, because sometimes what you see as a flaw is exactly what gives them the strength to devour your entire world.